uh, leaving you on whatever the word is. How are you doing anyway?
Good, mate. Good, yeah. Very good.
Just in case anybody's clicked on this and they've stumbled across it and they have no idea who you are or how we know each other, do you want to give yourself a little introduction to the people?
Sure, yeah. I'm Joseph. To give you a bit of info into my own background, I'm an online worker. I do quite a bit of traveling with that. And in terms of like stuff that would relate to your audience, before working with you, I'm 38, so I did a lot of should we say nighttime, approaching, going out with mates, partying and all that type of thing in my 20s. I had my own club promotion in my early 30s, so from 30 to 34, that's kind of its own world really, but there's a kind of element of your personal life which is going to be relevant there as well. You see a lot of insights into the world of nightlife and night game and stuff like that, which is quite interesting. And I'm 38 now, so 4 years ago when I left that, I've just been basically doing online work since then. And I worked with Kristian 5 months ago in Manchester. Basically got to a point where I was kind of like, do I want to be going to clubs anymore? I don't like the online stuff to begin with. I think it's a terrible way to conduct your life, to be honest with you. And it should be there almost just like as an optional extra, I think. But but obviously like daytime approach, man, is this whole world on its own. So, and I knew that, and I knew nighttime approach is kind of a whole world on its own. So I knew I needed some extra skill basically, because I didn't really know what to do. So I got in touch with Kristian and started to work with him 5 months ago in Manchester. Did a workshop for weekends, 3 days, a lot of approaching, and then that was really the start. That was kind of kick-started the process. And so here I am 5 months later, and there's been a lot of ups and downs, to be honest with it, through the previous 5 months. But just having Kristian, like having done the weekend, having advice from Kristian, and then also probably most importantly being part of this group of other guys who are doing the same thing, or guys who've done the same thing and are further along the line than I am, guys who are new to it. It's all very inspiring. So being part of this group has been absolutely phenomenal, to be honest with you. So that's my intro really of everything that would relate to your audience.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. It's really important for me to know that the people who invest their money into me are looked after. And that's the reason why it's not just me that you're getting access to, but it's the rest of the guys that I've worked with. Like, I've always liked my clients to be my cheerleaders, because I think whenever you're working in an industry like this, you need a massive amounts of social proof, because most guys who come across this content, they just don't trust anybody, which is fair enough. So that's why it's important. Actually, it's interesting for me though, because I know you've got some interesting stories to tell, but you'd reached a point in your life where you had become proficient with, let's just say proficient with women, right? But you still decided that it was the daytime that appealed to you the most. Why was that?
A number of reasons. I mean, I think first of all, how do you still want to keep going to clubs? Like in terms of like, how much more do you need to do in clubs, man? Like, I've been a club promoter. I've spent how many nights in my life in nightclubs? I don't know. So the appeal of allure of clubs was not really there anymore. But beyond that, there are so many obstacles. This is something I found as time has gone on. There's so many obstacles in your way with clubs. I mean, it's endless. The number of obstacles. One of the guys in our group, actually, we were just having a discussion the other day and mentioned the point, in the daytime, no one is really that bothered about you approaching. Like onlookers and stuff, you perceive that they're bothered, but in actual reality, they're not. That's not true in nightclubs. Like the number of times You go to talk to someone, their friends get involved. Some guy comes in who's part of their group who thinks he's going to be the new boyfriend or whatever. It's countless. It's literally, that stuff has happened to me hundreds of times, and you really have to deal with it, and sometimes you can't deal with it. Plus, you've got alcohol, you've got late nights, you've got fighting, there's so many things in your way with nightlife. It's actually not a good place to meet the opposite sex. Realistically, it's not a great place to meet them. It's a place, but it's not a great place. So for me, I just wanted to move on from that and just maybe have it as something I can do now and then, like as a bit of fun, and just maybe go with a date or something, go to a nightlife venue. But I think, like most guys in our culture in the UK, they see nightlife as their only option, which is what I did for a long time anyway, unless it's something like a girl in your class or something like that, like a dance class or something. But basically, people see nightlife as their only option, which is understandable given the culture. But I just don't think it's a good option to begin with. And then in terms of, I always looked at day gamers. I always looked at it as like, is this possible? Like, I've done it a few times, like over the years, where I've just been like London or something, and sometimes, like, I don't know, like a French tourist or something, she'd ask me to take a photo of her, and then her and a friend, and then we'd kind of go from there. And I was like, wow, this was so cool. I remember going with a guy actually who was an absolute monster at nightlife, like an absolute monster. And we just went out for a day in London, and this is a decade before I ever met you. And I did like a few interactions with people, and he was kind of like, he was kind of like, whoa, like he couldn't really do it. So I think I maybe always had a bit of an inclination this would be a cool thing to do. And so I see it as, in the way I view things, I see it as the peak. I see daytime cold approach. I see daytime solo cold approach as the absolute peak. That if you can do that, you can do anything, in my opinion. Anything down from that, going out with your mates, that's definitely a lot easier. Going out in nightlife with your mates is it as effective? Probably not, but it's not that. I think it's easier personally. Or in some ways it's easier anyway. And obviously online is like the bottom of the rung, to be honest with you. That is the easiest of all in terms of the amount of effort you put in on the front end.
Yeah, I think with all of this stuff, I think it would be easy for me to become a day game fanboy and just push day game down everyone's throats. But I really do believe you should do the thing that most appeals to you in this particular season of your life, and understand as well that there is a holistic approach to all of this. Like I'm a massive advocate of just doing everything, right? If you want to use online for passive income, if you want to go out at night and meet people, and you also want to exercise a skill set in the day, like they are all related and they do all help each other somewhat. But I agree, if you can do the daytime cold approach solo on your own, then you're operating in a league of your own. Now, I think what's important is you worked with me in Manchester, right? So you worked with me in Manchester, but now you're in South America. So I think a lot of guys who get this skill set, I do think there is the mindset that, okay, I want to travel, I want to explore. So how did that work for you?
Yeah. So I mean, I'd actually done some approaches before meeting you. But I'd started probably doing it with a little bit of consistency around about a year before meeting you, and that was off the back of being in South America and seeing the local guys do it. Not necessarily in like a structured way where they were doing a session, but I've seen local guys approach like often enough that I go, okay, well, that obviously works. Like I've seen guys get a number in a mall. I just watched it straight in front of me. I remember one thing I always remember is a guy stopping his motorbike, getting off his motorbike, talking to a girl for like 2 minutes, getting a number. And like, part of me, I'm like, I don't know if the memory is correct, but I'm like, did she get on his motorbike? I can't actually remember, but it was something that was so staggering to me. I was like, okay, if these guys can do it, I'm going to start doing it. So I started doing it a little bit. obviously it's really not easy when you're doing it on your own for the first time, no guidance and stuff. And then I left South America, and I was in Eastern Europe when I contacted you, and that was just a whole different kettle of fish. It was like it's much more a totally different culture. It didn't really feel. I just didn't feel like I was equipped to do it there, to be honest with you. If I went back in 6 months, now or in 6 months' time, maybe, but I didn't feel equipped. So, yeah, coming to Manchester to work with you, and then moving on. For me, Manchester was good because I'm familiar with the city, so I actually felt quite good there. I think we even had a little I think I even showed you like some old weird old shops.
Yeah, the old pawn shop where we went to in the pouring rain.
Yeah, we ducked into this place and when it started to throw it down, and because I went to college there, so it was like, oh, this place is still here. So Manchester was familiar to me, so I felt quite comfortable. The other thing I will say as well, if you've got UK viewers, Manchester's a good spot. Manchester's a good spot. It's one of the better spots you could really ever hope to find because, especially on a Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, traffic you get is tremendous. And that was one of the things I found as I've been traveling and I've been different cities is foot traffic is it is probably the most important thing. Foot traffic is pretty much everything. In addition, you've got very good logistics. You've got you almost got like a grid of 4 main streets, and they're kind of like a motorway almost of people zooming through. So you've got tons and tons of women. Every type of woman you would ever, wish to see is going to be there, whatever your interest is. So it was great to do the weekend there. I think it's a really good spot. And then I moved on. I was like in different places in the UK, and then out in South America. So you can't dismiss location. In fact, once you get something of a skill set, your location is going to be a limiting factor. And if that's something we've just got to accept. Like if you're trying to do cold approach, you're trying to do super well in I don't know, like Bakewell or something, or some obscure north. You know what I mean? You can probably do it on a summer's day. You probably get a few numbers.
Plenty of tarts in Bakewell, man. Plenty of tarts there.
Exactly. But there's going to be a limit. You're going to be capped. Yeah. So I was based in Sheffield, so I'm going out around there and stuff, and I did enjoy it. It gave a different feel to the city and stuff like that. But you're capped on what you're going to do. And I think there was a point where I went out one afternoon. I got like 3 numbers in Sheffield, like in the daytime. One of them in freaking Poundland, which is just hilarious. But after that, I was like, what more can I actually do at this point? Is the quality really there? Whatever. So yeah, going off on your travels, you can then start to deploy this skill set and actually improve it a lot as well. But yeah, I was in Brazil before. I don't mind saying that, and depends on the city you're in, I would say. But not all cities are that good, to be honest with you. Actually, some are quite bad for it. Some cities there's more potential, but some cities actually are just really not good. So yeah, whether you're doing it currently or you're planning on doing it, you've got to think about your location. You've got to take that seriously. And if you're not in the right location, honestly, move if you want to take it seriously, or at least start to go to different cities and go to different places.
Yeah, that's what I did when I first started, and it was COVID as well. I was living in Leeds, which is not the best city at the best of times, but this was like pandemic season, so that maybe you would see like one person on the streets every day. So I was doing intercity cold approach. Yeah, I was doing Newcastle, London, Manchester, York, Liverpool. You're right. Like environment is everything, right? Environment really is everything. If you are doing it in a smaller location, it's super easy to get a reputation for yourself as well. It's difficult, yeah, and I agree with you. And also, it's like you don't just want to be moving for the sake of cold approach. I do think moving to a bigger city, it inspires you to become more like as a person when you are in that you're swimming with the sharks. Do you know what I mean? Like if I go from Leeds to London, the playing field is a lot more fierce. But I think it's good. I think it's necessary.
Yep.
In terms of, because there was a story that you shared in our group that I would like you to narrate to us on the stream because it was super inspiring. You'll know the one that I'm talking about. And I think this story is going to be really useful for the guys listening to really demonstrate to them, first of all, what's possible, what's possible when you actually apply yourself. Because just to pre-frame it, I think there's far too many guys who think that investing into coaching of any sort is quick fix. It's like a magic bullet solution. Like this only works if you do, right? And I think there's so many guys who just think, oh right, I'm just going to throw money at this problem and it's going to fix it. No, the money gives you access. The money gives you the playbook, the accountability, and the network. It's up to you what you do with it. So I think it's just important for guys to understand that because not everybody is even ready to be doing this as well. But yeah, just pre-frame it with that. But anyway, take the floor.
Yeah. Just before I start, I think that point is such a salient point. And again, the guys in our group are people who've invested and spent time. It's not a coincidence that probably the person who is definitely advanced the most rapidly or was Ephraim, who spent a month with you. So he's invested more into it. So he got further more rapidly than someone who just does a weekend. And that's how it should be. But in order to do that, he had to show up every day and put the time in every single day for a month. So I did a weekend with you and went on to, just basically continue to push the whole time. And this last weekend just gone, I'm in a new country now in South America. I've been here for 3 weeks and I'm familiar with the country. So I got in and I felt good as soon as I got in. So I had a lot of work on, but I started doing some sessions and I think I'd got to about 10 numbers about 3 weeks in, had a couple of dates. One of them actually was really good, went really well. And this was last weekend, last Friday night. I went out to basically just get a coffee and approach. And I can't remember if I approached or not, but I just remember feeling pissed off at myself because there was an easy set that I should have opened, a girl on a bench. It's absolute bread and butter for me at this point. I can do that, no problem. And I bottled it because, whatever bullshit reason, we know what the bullshit reasons are. People are watching me. I feel self-conscious. What's going to happen? Some irrational fear. Someone's going to come and shoot you because you're approaching a girl or whatever it is. You make some excuse. I don't want to interrupt the girl. She's on the phone. She might be waiting for a friend. She's probably got a boyfriend. Bullshit, but it's what goes through your head. What other excuses are there? I don't know. There's just other bullshit that goes through your head. And so I let that one go, and I probably let a couple of others go as well. And I got home and I was like, right, I'm going out on a session tomorrow. That is penciled in, like that's firmly in my diary. And even though, yes, the Friday was almost a warm-up, I thought to myself, I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I cannot take these bullshit excuses that my mind is coming up with. And for even though I've got like 10 numbers, I've been on dates. For every one number I'm getting, I think honestly I'm missing 2. So I'm operating at 30% maybe of what I should be doing. And I think, like, does that matter? Well, yeah, it does, because that's your selection, that's your choice. The girl out there that you really want, you might have to literally do like 400 approaches to meet that person, or 100 or whatever it is. I don't know, 50. So anyway, so I got home and I sent a message to the group, basically saying, look, on the surface I could say I'm being successful, but I actually feel disgusted with myself because I know what is happening in these sessions, and I know I'm missing opportunities, and I know I'm letting this little 4-year-old boy inside me who's afraid, I know I'm letting him at times dictate what my actions are as a grown man, not far off 40 in a couple of years. So so that was a message I sent to the group, and I was kind of like, I basically said in that message, I'm going out today and I do not give 2 shits what happens. I don't care what happens. I don't care how the girls respond. I don't care what my own doubts are. I don't care if the whole thing falls apart and it's just a total shit show in every single set. I literally have people pointing and laughing at me or something. I don't know. I just got to a point where I just no longer cared. And, you know, I'm going to set, that's my intention, is just to go out and just basically show who I am. This is me, like me or don't like me. And show intent as well, not just going up being a nice guy to the girls. Actually showing intent is, you know, looking them in the eyes. I approach you because I'm attracted to you. Let's go from there. I might not necessarily say that, but it's there's an energy there. So that was the start of the day. That was the start of the day. And do you want me to continue on just to narrate how the whole day went?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So that was the start, and that was the intention. And so basically, I did 3 sessions that day. The first session, I went out probably slightly too early. I probably went out about 11:30, something like that, just around my local area. And things I did well. As soon as I got out, just because I set that intention does not mean that's actually going to how it's going to play out. Doesn't mean I'm not still going to be a fucking pussy when I go out, because you walk out the door and it's a different world than how things are in your head when you're making your intention, right? I think there's almost nowhere in life where that's more true than in daytime cold approach. So I felt as soon as I got into the streets, I was like, okay, I am still nervous. Great. But anyway, one thing I did, which I think was good, was when I went to get a bottle of water from the pharmacy. There's 2 girls there, and I kind of just opened them, like not in a way to get their number, but I was just chatting to them, chatting quite boldly. And then one of the guys started getting involved, and I was kind of holding court with these guys, so it's getting me socially warmed up. Got out into the streets, and it was weirdly, eerily quiet. I think it was just too early in the day. And eventually get to this, there's a kind of park at the end of the street. You get in there, there's 2 girls who were taking photos, and they said, I spoke to them, they said they were doing something for university. And I was just like, it was a horrendous approach. Like, it was just absolute total dog shit. And I'm just trying to make conversation, just forcing this conversation so much on these 2 girls, still being polite, but it was just like, you know, and it must have been couple, I don't know, 2 minutes of conversation. I don't really know. Utter train wreck, and so awkward. I stayed in, you know, 95% of the conversation was, I should have left this conversation right at the beginning. That's basically what's going through my head. But whatever. I just stuck it out, stuck through the awkward pain. And honestly, I said to the group, almost humiliating. No, it was humiliating. So it wasn't almost humiliating, it was humiliating. Okay, but I stuck it out, go down the street. That's approach number 1. And I kind of carried on. It was still quite sparse, but I saw an absolutely gorgeous policewoman, just like as I'm walking through. And in this area, it's notable because there are quite a few quite attractive policewomen. And I think they almost, because it's a touristy area, they obviously select the quite attractive policewomen to do the beat sort of thing. So she was on her own. I was like, well, that's got to be number 2, you know. So I'll go and approach her. And that conversation lasted for about 5 minutes. That was definitely better. But I could see she was like, you know, I didn't want to push for the number or anything, because I'm like, I don't want it to almost. I felt like if I did, I'd almost be putting her in, like, she could have just been polite to me. You know, she could have been like, who's this freak? But I'm going to spill people out. So I'm kind of grateful for the polite conversation and stuff. And I was complimenting her, like, you know, looks wise and stuff like that. I think it was genuine, because I took a selfie. I didn't send it to the group, but I took a selfie with her, and she was pretty happy to take the selfie. So whatever. The streets are still quiet. So I go to get my coffee. And by this point, I am feeling a little bit warm. Like, those were to get over that initial push to go and actually do the approach. That's the hardest part. The actual being in there itself is usually a lot better. It's the push, which is so difficult. But I've done those first 2, and got into the coffee shop, ordered my coffee and stuff. And then the guys, I'm just waiting at the bar for it to come down, and just start chatting to the guys there. And then I just noticed that like all of the staff just came towards me. There's like 3 or 4 staff just came towards me, and they're all chatting, and I'm chatting, and it was like literally like I was a magnet. And it's weird because I go there every single day. I'll probably go there today, but my energy or something must have been quite magnetic at that point. And again, that was quite good for just boosting myself, basically. But this is still the start. I've only done 2 approaches by this stage, and I'd already decided to myself, I'm going to go do my local area, and then I'm going to go and do this market, which is a little way away from me. So I've got to catch the bus up to this market, like Chinatown and this market, and I'm going to go around there, and it's usually quite bustling. I thought it'd probably be a good place to approach. So I take the bus. I sent the video to the group of this bus, which is basically like a freaking...
There's 2 girls in front of you being like, is this guy famous?
It's basically just like a broken down minibus with no door. That's their version of the bus.
Super easy to approach on that thing, man. Just straight out back in.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing was as well, I didn't say this in the group, but after I did that video, the girls were like, like basically, don't take your phone out around here, when you get out. Because it's a bit more of a dodgy part of town. It's not really dodgy, but it's a little bit dodgy. So I get to this place, the market, Chinatown area. Yes, it is very bustling, but I'm just looking around and I'm like, I can't approach here, man. I'm not ready for this. Like, it's quite rough and ready. There's like selling all sorts of shit on the side of the road, like fake passports, machetes.
It's like being back in Bakewell.
Oh, maybe. Wow, exactly. So basically, I got to that area. The only thing the only takeaway from that was this. I went to the supermarket. I was like, fuck, I'll go get a drink from the supermarket. And in there was a really attractive young woman, I'd say around about 20, 21, and she was there with her mum. And we locked eyes with each other. And then I'm going to myself, I'm like, how the fuck do I approach a mum in a door in a supermarket? How do I do it? And I psyched myself out of it. But in all seriousness, I was like, I'm not even afraid. I just don't know what to say. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I literally had no clue. I'm thinking to myself, what can I do here? But anyway, should just throw myself into the water. Didn't do it. Pussied out.
Just ask some of these sisters, and then you're in.
Exactly, just something simple like that, right? It doesn't really matter. But
yeah.
I overthought it, and I think that is a legitimate like quandary, to be honest, for a lot of people. So I go home, This is like this whole thing maybe took me like probably close to 2 hours, maybe 90 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. But I get home and I'm like, okay, well, I've done 2 approaches in total. I might be charismatic in the coffee shop, but I've done 2 approaches in total. That was just like barely a warm up, really. So I have lunch, and I'm like, I'm not even going to message the group. I'm not going to show off about that. That was trash, but it was what it was. Like, I went out with intent. I did my best. It was basically trash, painful. I get home, I'm sweating because it's tropical here. I actually have to shower, change my clothes, have lunch, and then reset. And I'm like, it's probably about 3 o'clock by this stage. I'm like, all right, I'm back out again. I'm going to go to the mall, but I'm just going to go through my little touristy central area as well, just before I get my Uber, see what's going on there. And I believe in like the gods of the street, like the gods of the streets. There are times where the gods of the streets favor you. And there are times where they do not. Definitely. And as I walked down the strip the second time, there's still a couple that I missed, but fairly quickly I saw like, okay, there's 3 girls literally dressed in fucking black lycra who were just like so mint. They were just superb. I was just like, mate, like this is your approach right here. Thank you. So I think the details are important. So what I have found, when you've got like a slightly narrow street and you're just kind of not sure, you're just like hesitating on like the physics almost, like what angle, what the fuck do I do? I just walked past them, walked in front of them, so I was about 30 paces in front of them. They were kind of ambling along, and then I kind of stopped, turned around, and I just kind of just chilled. And then when they got within like a distance, that's when I opened them, just kind of stopped them. I was just like, "What are you girls doing? Like, you look amazing, whatever." And just started talking absolute bullshit to them, and they were kind of partaking a little bit. I think they obviously, you're a 5'10" girl dressed in lycra walking down the street, like, you know, people can be looking at you. So yeah, that was actually pretty sick, to be honest with you, because like everyone was staring at these girls anyway, but I was the guy who actually approached them. So this moment where these three like beauties like stood all staring at me. I saw out the corner of my eye this guy looking at me as well, just like this old man, just like
He's one of the day game gods. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. So that was, and anyway, basically I got an Instagram from one of those. They were models going to a casting, so they were sort of like, you know, these like, you know, it's kind of like whatever. It's not Kate Moss or something. It's just whatever this modeling shit is. I don't know. I feel like any like really decently fit girl these days ends up doing some kind of modeling. Like it's a lot more common than it used to be. But yeah, go for the number with one of them, and she gives me her Instagram, but she gave it me in a way which was like, I understood why she did, to be honest. I've only spoken to you for 90 seconds. You're in front of your two mates. You might have a boyfriend or a husband, and even if you don't, it's understandable that some girls, after such a short approach, don't want to give you their number. To me, that's understandable. Some do, but some don't. And it might be they might feel a social pressure, or they might just not feel that you've got to that point yet. But she was quite like, she was insisting on giving me her Instagram. So, okay, whatever. So I move forward, and they go off to their casting, and I just like just go away from them. That's when I saw another policewoman, and then this time I was like, how? I think I was just doing a video just to keep myself warm. And I was like, how the hell are these policewomen so fit? So that's when I did one just for the group, like just like said to her, you know, do you mind if I just take a quick video of you, like just have a little chat with her, like I literally asked her like, how come you guys are so fit? So that was just a bit of banter. That was more just for the group, to be honest with you. And then continued on, and then approached. I was about to get my Uber, but there was a couple of girls. They were doing TikTok videos in the park, and they were just like, I can't get this Uber. Like, I'll let myself down if I don't approach those girls. So went over to them, approached them. So this would be approach number 4 by this stage, and they were 2 as well, and it went pretty well, to be honest. The girl who I like seemed to be a bit less interested, although she has been messaging me on Instagram. And the girl who I wasn't really interested in, she seemed to be like super receptive. So anyway, so I'm going back and forth with these girls, and see, you know, asking them what you're doing, like, oh, like, are you influencers, whatever. You know, we're just chatting bullshit basically, and that probably lasts for a few minutes. I asked them, I was like, oh, do you want me to video for you? What you guys, you know, do you need a hand or something? But it's just banter, bullshit. And eventually, I think one of them, she asked for my Instagram, or I can't remember how it was. But to me, it honestly seemed like they were more interested in the TikTok than they were in me. So that was approach number 4. But still, you know, got an Instagram from it, whatever. I still felt like I was warming up, to be honest with you, by this point. Get the Uber to the mall, and chatting with the driver, he's telling me about his experiences. I don't, obviously, somehow I probably must have had dating on my mind. He's telling me about his experiences. Quite funny, really. And then getting to this mall, which I've been at previously and not managed to do any approaches. And I'm just trying to think what happened. This is what happened. The casting, the model casting, some of the girls from that casting, there must have been dozens of girls who'd gone from it, had gone to this mall afterwards. So I can see them because they must have been told you need to come in black lycra. So I can see these girls walking around in black lycra, and they just look so model-esque. I probably saw 4 or 5 of them. And then it was another, like, there was 2 where I was like, okay, I need to approach them. They were ahead of me. And I think I've told you, like, I struggle a bit, like, to just run after a girl. Like, it feels too, like, I don't like I'm a velociraptor chasing some prey or something. Like, it feels like I'm gonna pounce them or something.
Velociraptor. It's like a fucking Jurassic Park game.
That's feels like just like extremely predatory. You sort of chase after it. I don't know.
The Velociraptor. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. That's the image that comes into my head. Just snuck and diving.
Just really small arms.
Yeah, exactly. Just diving on them and just like attacking them or something. That's what I feel like anyway.
That's really funny.
Walk past them again. So for some reason that for me feels like, you know, maybe there's a better way to do it, but like it was something I could do, so I did it. Walk past them, stop, and then as they're coming there, as they're approaching me, then I can stop them. And this is actually, it ended up being pretty much outside the ladies' bathroom, which I hadn't seen, but like anyway, it wasn't exactly opportune, but they were like very receptive, and the girl who I liked, she was very receptive. I think she gave me her Instagram as well. So, and that was like, again, that was like a 90-second. I think I asked for a number, she gave me her Instagram, but it's like these are such short interactions, you know, like yeah, that might be something for guys who are listening, is you kind of obviously get numbers on very short interactions. I've done it, everyone's done it. But a longer interaction is very likely to end up with a number. If you're talking to a girl for 10 minutes, she's going to give you a number, like 100, like it's pretty much 100%. Shorter, yeah, maybe, and maybe you end up with that girl, but you know, there's more chance, even if they like you, there's going to be more resistance or hesitancy on their behalf, which in some cases anyway, that's my experience. And I think I don't really hold that, if that happens to me, I don't hold that against them or reflect it on me or anything like that. It's just like, I've spoken to this girl for 60 seconds. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't.
Yeah, those longer conversations. Look, at the start, it's great. If you are just starting with this, it's great that you're just getting yourself in there, like getting those reps in. But yeah, as you progress, it's not about counting your approaches, but making your approaches count. And the way you make them count is by turning them into quality conversations. So conversations which actually build investment. So she knows she can know, like, and trust you, and you're not coming across as a deranged serial killer or velociraptor. But yeah, those longer conversations, they come with time as well. You're not going to be having 10-minute conversations when you first start out. And also more credit to you as well, because you're doing this in a different language. That's hard.
Yeah. The linguistic element for me here is not as difficult. In Brazil, it was more challenging because it's Portuguese. That was more of a challenge. I enjoy that anyway, to be honest with you. And here it's all right. I almost prefer it, to be honest, because like I'm not really sure why, but I don't mind English, but I also don't mind. I'm getting used to it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I suppose it definitely leverages like your value overall, though, because look, you're already going to be perceived as a rarity because I don't see guys like you all the time. Then you're bringing the Spanish out, so it's just like boom, 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 right? Like it's just like, oh wow, it's not even like you're just making effort, like you're actually fluent in the language. So it just shows a depth of character, which I think a lot of guys don't have.
Yeah. Even if you're not fluent, though, to be honest, like some of my best ever stuff in Portuguese was when I literally spoke like Tarzan when I first started doing Portuguese. It's like 5 years ago. I remember going to Lisbon for the first time. I remember going to some like a kizomba, like club night there, meeting like a girl there and talking to her friends and stuff like that. And it was barbaric, man. My Portuguese was atrocious, but who cares? Like, you're still a man. They're still a woman. Like, you're still communicating. So yeah, like if you're a language learner, to be honest, you know, like this is actually quite good, to be honest with you. Like you just approaching girls, it's like it's as good as anything else, you know, for language, for assisting with language. But yeah. So anyway, so with that, that was only a relatively short conversation. That I think that would be the fifth approach that I've the fifth approach of the day. So now I've got 3 Instagrams by this point. 2 of them from models, trying to be models, and so things are starting to move by this point. It's like it's not easy though. None of it's been easy up to this point. And there was a point in the mall where again there was a girl, like she was like 40-50 meters away from me, and I put this to the group this week actually. It's like the girl's a distance away from me that I can't just stop her like, hey, you know, I know what to do, which is either jog up to them or, you know, shout basically.
Yeah.
Just something inside me, the limiter inside me. You know, there is a limiter there, whatever this social limiter, whatever we call it. I know what I want to do, but I was allowing that to dictate to me in that moment. And I didn't. That was one approach I should have done, but I didn't do it because it was like she's too far away. And then I started saying, "Oh, I'm sure I'll see her around the corner or something like this," and it never happened. So that was one that got away. And then I go upstairs to, I think, just probably get a drink or something, and I see a mother and daughter. And this time, like, I'm waiting for my drink, and they're literally right there in front of me. And the girl was absolutely like, you know, she was really quite striking. So I just opened the mum. I was like, oh, you know, like, I just think your daughter's really beautiful, whatever. And she just kind of said thanks. And then I think when I got my drink, I went to get a straw or something, and then they kind of came over next to me, and that's when I opened them again. And then turned up the daughter was 17, so I'm like, it's a bit, you know, it's not on my radar, but still, you know, it was a mother and daughter set which I actually managed to have a conversation with, and I was like, it's really not that bad. It's like weirdly fucking intimidating to approach, but it's really not that bad. So that was the first one of that type that I've done, and it was just a little conversation, and that was it. And actually, the mum was like quite receptive, not receptive, but like she was quite happy that like someone was saying something nice about her daughter. Like, I think if we've been real, like, what mother does not want their daughter to be considered beautiful? When you think about it, like that's probably the main thing they want. I bet if you ask most moms, what would you prefer your daughter to be, beautiful or brilliant? I bet you 90% would say if she's beautiful, it's probably going to be better for her. So, but anyway, you know, she was happy anyway. So whatever. And I did one more approach in that mall, and this is like, again, these are all like, it was almost like an encyclopedia of things that you could do. This was one where I thought, I'm more attractive than that girl. So on a purely objective level, she should be responsive to me. We know how that's not how it works, right? Okay, this shit is not objective at all. So I've been speaking to models and quite attractive girls earlier on. This girl was like, I don't know what I would give her as a rating. She was attractive, but I was like, you know, she should be responsive, right? Which she was. I stopped her and I was like complimenting her on her clothes and stuff like that. But she was like unbelievably arrogant, like truly offensively arrogant. Was like talking to me, but at the same time, like making an effort almost to be looking at her phone. I can't really quite, almost in a pretentious way. So that was something else which clicked. I was like, you know, like you can just walk away from a girl who's been fucking rude, like, which I should have done. But eventually she asked me for my Instagram, which is kind of weird, but given anyway, the whole situation. So I was like, you know, this shit isn't like, it's not objective. It's not like if you're a 9 or you're an 8 and she's a fucking 6, then, you know, she's going to be grateful for the approach. No, it's the opposite. As I think we've talked about this, like, or you've talked about it. It's the average girls who kind of give the weirdest behavior. And actually, it's often the most beautiful who are truly like the most lovely people. Very often is the case. So yeah, that was like approach number 7 or something. And this is like at the mall by this. This is all like bright, bright strip light mall, and I think I approached one more girl, like just coming out of a shop or something. And she stopped and we had like a very brief chat, but I think she wasn't interested in being approached. And this is when I know I'd kind of broken seal, because I just found it hilarious. I was just like, she was just going into a shop and I was just coming out. And by that point, I opened her, and when she was not really that bothered, I just found it funny. Yeah, that was the end of phase 2. So far, like some Instagrams, some successes, some blowouts, some weird girls, some things I should have done, but I didn't do.
I think I think this part here is really important, because this state that you're in now, that's when you can play the game properly, right? Like that's when you have broken through, when now you can actually enjoy it, because now you're able to actually find fun in the game. And I think that's the element which is missing from 99% of guys who try this. They don't have fun with it because they don't get to that point where they can have fun. If I say to you, you need to have fun with it, but you've not done any approaches that day, it's almost impossible, right? You have to almost earn the right to have fun with it by just absolutely bombing for the first 10, if that's what it takes. Like you're just having these like sacrificial conversations because they're an investment into your ability to have fun with it. And now this second phase that you're in, you're able to actually enjoy it. And I believe that it's only when you actually enjoy it can you actually get the results that you want.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. The only thing I would say is I think you can still get results. Like if you were just doing if you can only go out and for like an evening or something, you go do a couple of approaches because it's like Tuesday at like 4 p.m. You actually can still get results from it. But if we're talking about a day, where you're going to go out and do a whole day, I think you said it to me, your first 3 don't even count. And I was like, you would never think that, right? You would never think that, like, it doesn't seem to make any sense. Why don't they count? And you approach them as if they do count, but ultimately they are just earning you the right. And so when I left the mall, I'm like, that was my second session of the day. We're starting to get to around 6 p.m., something like that by this stage. So I take a taxi back to my area, and basically by this point, I'm like, I'm just genuinely starting to feel myself. I'm just starting to feel different as well, because it's like you've done so many, you've gone through so many interactions, and I've pushed myself as well. I think that's a crucial thing, is I'm not just interacting with like the ugly girl who works at like, I don't know, the electronics store or something, who has to talk to me. I'm actually pushing myself into interactions where they don't have to talk to me. I've got to stop them. And then whether it's going well or not, I'm sticking in. And as they warm up, I'm not just going, oh, this is nice, I've had a nice conversation. I'm going, right, can I get your number? So it's always pushing. And by that stage, you start to feel completely different. So I took the taxi back, and this was almost like my third kind of, it's like another break. There's another break, so just relax, just decompress for like 15 minutes, get back to my area. And it's just starting to go dark. I'm like, I'm not going to go and take a rest now. This right now, the streets are going to be good now, because it's just before the night time. And so like people who come out late afternoon are still out. And when it gets too late, it can get more like nightlife or a bit more seedy and stuff like that. Whereas this was just the perfect time. Like, I've got to hit the streets now. So I get out, and I'm just walking down the street, and like my feeling by that point was just monstrous. Like I just felt like a monster by that point, because all of that emotion that you've released almost, and like all of that, all those challenges you've fucking been through that day on your own, with like nobody there to fucking hold your hand. Some of them going really well, others like the first one like just being a complete fucking shit show, total humiliation. Another like dealing with a girl who's really fucking rude to you, getting pissed off about that. You've gone through so many different things, right? So as I'm walking down the street, my physiology, my whole being, I know there's no man in this street who's done more challenging work today emotionally than that. And like we know, right? Go to the gym, all this type of shit. This is all the stuff that's pushed. Go to the gym, your job. Fuck all of that. That does not do what cold approach does. It is not the same. This is totally different level that we're operating on when we go out and do this stuff. It is emotional combat. That is basically what it is, which is why no one does it, because you're getting you're getting punched up basically when things don't go well, when you pussy out on something. It's a wound. You're getting hit by it, and it's difficult. So when you come through that, you've done it, and you start to flow, and then you start to, you start to get into it. You're into the rhythm of it, and it's actually now that difficulty is kind of gone. Actually, now you're there. You're in the state you want to be. So I'm just walking down the street, just feeling like fucking Hercules, basically. I'm just looking around. I'm like, I'm the fucking man on the street, like, because objectively I was. It's not like I've hypnotized myself. I know that I am. So I'm walking down the street and just looking, okay, who gets to actually get my approach right now? What woman is going to be? Who am I going to give this energy to? Who's going to get the blessing of me in this state right now? And so that's what my mindset is. If you contrast that with, the first approach where you're just kind of a bit nervous, just hesitant, and it slowly gets better and better through the day, and then you hit liftoff, at a certain point, and that was where I was at right then, was liftoff. And as I'm walking down the street, I was genuinely like, she's not really worth it. And then just kind of like literally like a fucking vision coming towards me, like literally out of nowhere, is this girl on a bicycle. And this is in the pedestrian area as well. So it's like, what are you doing on a bicycle in the pedestrian area? It's like tall, super athletic looking, like ridiculous physical specimen. So I stop her, I'm like, what are you doing here on your bike? We're just going back and forth, and like pretty much, and I like complimented her straight away. It's like, you look like an athlete, man. Like, what? You look amazing. And it was just crazy. Like straight away, the energy was just insane. And okay, I'm like, what are you doing now? Oh, nothing. I was like, oh, I'm going to the supermarket. You come to the supermarket with me. So she turns around. She goes to the supermarket with me. She's like riding through people, just trying not to crash and stuff. We're just bantering back and forth. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's almost like you've known each other for like 20 years, but at the same time, it's really exciting because it's the first time you've met each other. She parks a bike up somewhere, and she comes inside to meet me. And basically, I think we just got some drinks and went to a park which is nearby, where they have like a lot of people will often bring their speakers, and they'll have like, it's almost like an outdoor disco, because it's the climate is perfect for it. People just bring their speakers, and so we just sit down. These guys have got their music on near to us. I was like, oh, what kind of music do you like? Anyway, so she liked Kizomba, and I'm like, well, I know that music. So I just go over to the guys. I'm like, guys, do you mind just putting this music on for me? And they're like, sure. So I'm in the park with this girl I met 30 minutes before. I'm like dancing with this girl in the park, just like proper, like, it's just an awesome dance. Like, it's so romantic and stuff like this. And this is just completely insane. This is a day game approach, yeah? 30 minutes later, I'm dancing with a girl in the park to a speaker, like under the stars. People are walking past, like looking at us, like shouting stuff. You can imagine, right? The girl's like, she's really enjoying it. I'm enjoying myself. It's just like superb, basically. We sit back down again. I'm like, I think there was a moment where I was having a moment. I was like, this is just fucking incredible. It wasn't just the girl, it was the whole situation of like where I am, the music, the night, the girls here. I was like, man, what? This is just incredible. But yeah, anyway, so she was really feeling me basically. She was literally like stroking my leg and stuff like this. And then I think we danced a bit more. And I was like, I can't remember, we were talking about food. And she was like, oh, have you eaten yet? I was like, no, I'm going to eat some mine. And she was like, oh, like, invite me. So I'm like, okay, you're invited. So we just basically go back to mine, and in the end, she couldn't get in because you need to have documents to get in. You need to have an ID to get into the building and stuff. So that night she couldn't get in, which I was actually all right with, to be honest, because it's like, even like me, I only met this girl like 90 minutes ago. Like, this is kind of insane for me to be doing this, and yeah, so it ended that night, and it's like weird because I go back out with it. I'm like, oh, what's your number? So like we've done all of this. Like, she was coming back with me, and I hadn't even got a number by this stage. And then yeah, like the next day we just met up and stuff the next day. So when we were able to meet up, so it kind of was all one interaction in a way. So yeah, that was my sort of weekend. Like, we call them, like you call them, Renaissance days or Renaissance weekends, and that was a Renaissance day really. Like the Sunday I just kind of chilled and then met up with this girl. I burnt myself to a fucking crisp on Saturday. Like, the energy of I had to summon from my nervous system, like, to actually do everything, to keep pushing, to get to that point. And then like the kind of like this complete amazing lift off of just like, Titan mode at the end. It was just so intense. The day after, I was just like, literally, I've got nothing left today. Like, because you're on your own as well. Like, I pushed myself just as much with you, but it's very different doing it alone. Because when I'm with you or with a mate, we can at least chat in between the session, in between the approaches. We can have a laugh. We can talk about what we're doing, and if things don't go well, your mate just like, can give you a few words or whatever. Just having that buffer there, and even having the social buffer, you've got a social buffer to go back to. You go to a set, it completely blows out. Who gives a shit? You're going back to your mate anyway. When you're on your own, you go to a set, it completely blows out. You just stood there with your dick in your hand, just like, well, that didn't go very well, did it? So I think it's more intense doing it alone, man, for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned about having a Renaissance day or Renaissance weekend. I do think I do want guys who are listening to this to schedule these things in. Like, just if it's one Saturday every single week, where I call them Renaissance days, because I truly believe if you do it right, you do become a new person by the end of it, as your story elucidates. Like, you just stack as much activity into one day as possible. You could do like a full day cold approach session, or you could just do a lot of difficult things. You could, cold shower, go to the gym, then go out and do your whatever is difficult for you, stacking it all into the single day, and just really like being disciplined with yourself to actually see it through to the end as well, because there's so many times in that narrative where you could have just gone home. There was I had an interesting thought as you were telling the story, when, like, as you were going through the day, do you feel as though you were becoming a different person, or do you feel as though you're actually connecting to a person which is already there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. No, the person's already there, man.
Yeah.
We're a lot stronger, more formidable people than we show. It's social conditioning for sure, parental conditioning, it's whatever it is, cultural shit. Like, you're a much stronger, more formidable flame in this world than you're actually showing. And all of us are. And it's just like, whatever the fuck is stopping people, I don't know. But yeah, the deeper into it you go, the more you become. It might be like you're a really funny guy. You just become more funny and more humorous. You might actually be a guy, actually, you got a natural charisma, or you've got a natural authority that you kind of hold in a little bit too much to make sure people don't feel uncomfortable, whatever. Or maybe you're just really fucking loud and you just hold into that a bit too much. What you are will come out. You know, if you get out of your own fucking way. That's what I was getting out on that message before all of this on the Friday. It's just like so much of this shit is just getting in my own fucking way. And I was thinking about this today, actually, because even today, like I go out for a coffee and I see a couple of girls I could have approached, but there's this weird like limiter that comes on in my head. And to be honest, I was thinking about it, I was like, why is that there? And I was like, well, in my work, for example, if I just acted on impulse, I would not have been able to do a single day's work ever. I would just walk out the room and I was like, fuck this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to have that impulse control in you. If most people are professionals or whatever the work they're doing, you got to have impulse control. But it's being able to access that in a natural person. When you do leave the office, you can just go and just be your real self and just be impulsive, like and for us, well, this is why cold approach is like so good, because it warms you up into that and it brings that inner being out of you, and you just become more of yourself. Maybe you do become another person as well. Like maybe it's kind of both, to be honest. Maybe you become something greater than you were before. But definitely there's an element of that inner being within you is just fucking coming out more. That's such a good point. Yeah, and I mean for me as well, like I should just add this as a kind of an additional comment. So after that day, that was a Saturday, met the girl on the Sunday, you know, good weekend of approach. I just get back to work this week, but I'm planning another session for Saturday. So because I basically now I want to start to elevate myself now. For various reasons. When I was in the UK, I was progressing a little bit, you know, doing bits and pieces, but I'm still very much a beginner, really. When I was over in Brazil, to be honest, like it was just not a good place to do it. Like there was no foot traffic where I was. Frankly, the fact that it's so violent in Brazil makes a difference. Like, you know, being approached in the street by strangers, like it's actually a different kettle of fish in some places. So I was doing a bit more nightlife there, to be honest with you, and the daytime stuff just wasn't really viable. Now I'm in this new place where I feel like it's totally viable. Now I'm wanting to elevate, and so I've been warming up. Last Saturday was a massive day to start to break into destroy this ego a little bit. That's trying to preserve myself too much, trying to keep it safe, and to move into this next phase. So I've scheduled this week, and I'm going to do more going forward. But interestingly, just like this, or like Monday and Tuesday, I wasn't even planning on doing anything, but I went out and I was like, actually, I feel all right, you know, like I feel pretty much recovered. Like I could do an approach tonight. I'm not going to do a session, but I could do an approach. Monday and Tuesday, I got Monday, this was funny. I basically just went to my cafe, chilled, and then I saw two girls who were just like fucking perfect. And I was like, I walked past them because one issue I have, I don't want to get sidetracked too much, but one issue I have is that sometimes I'm so in my head with what I'm thinking about that I'll see a girl and it'll be like about 2 seconds before my brain has realized, hey, there's a beautiful girl there. Like my eyes have seen it, I've seen her, but I'm thinking about something like usually work or something else. And then it's like, oh, you should do something. By that stage, like 3 seconds have gone past. And it's kind of like, oh shit, what the fuck do I do now? So that happens to me like quite frequently, to be honest, which is why doing a session is good, because you're focused on that. I'm not thinking about work when I'm on my session. But anyway, I
would just say to that as well, though, just for people listening, also for your future reference as well. Like many of these things, I find that the antidote is always to use it as you're open. So elephant in the room it. So like if you have been in your head in super logical mode and someone's walked past you who's caught or who's ignited your curiosity, but then like 3 seconds has passed. Yeah. The way that I would go into it was like I'd go over and I would literally be like, you know, I was daydreaming back there. Sorry, it took me so long to get here, but I just finished work. I had like so many like things going through my mind, but then you just came past me and it's like a breath of fresh air, whatever. But whatever is in your mind, you can use it as an icebreaker. And I found that to be the most effective way for me to get through that. Because you're right, there's always situations where you see someone, you think, oh, too long's gone. Usually the content of your mind is the content of the conversation.
Yeah. That's a brilliant point. Yeah, I'm gonna. It's kind of like step by step with this stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm realizing now, you know, frankly, how many holes there are in my approach, which is fine.
Yeah, which is great. That's the only way you put them holes, like get rid of them. It's just through the doing of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there's so many guys who will comment and they'll ask questions. They already know the answer to the questions. They're not going to apply anything. It's like, what's the best open? Why are you asking? You're not going to use it. So it's like the sticking points will become clear through the action that you're taking. But it's just one of the most humbling things. It's one of the most humbling things to just go out there and have car crash after car crash conversation, get back, and then be like, never again. It's like when the comedians bomb on stage. Like, you need the car crashes.
Yep. And also, like, if you're not doing this, you don't have any questions. Do not delude
Right.
yourself that you have a question. Yeah, honestly, if you're not doing it, like, if anyone's watching it, they've never done it before. Here's what you do: go up to the girl, or she's walking towards you. Hey, okay. You can also, hey, you look nice, or I like your dress, or I like your hat, or you look absolutely gorgeous. Just pay her a direct compliment from the beginning. Okay, that establishes that you're interested in her. From that point, how many girls are actually going to say "fuck you"? You've just given her a compliment.
Right.
From that point, you're going to have some type of a conversation, and you just chit chat, have a normal conversation, and then if she seems receptive, get her contact. And if she doesn't, or even if she doesn't seem receptive, ask for her contact. There you go. There's the technical aspect of it done. Okay. But until you've actually done it, that sounds easy to do. Until you've actually fucking done it, you don't know anything. You don't have any questions. So just do that, and like do that like 20 times, and then you'll come back and you go, man, yeah, I can give the compliment, but then it goes fucking awkward, or I can get into the conversation, but then it goes awkward, you know. And then you have real questions for someone like Kristian. But until you're actually doing it, you don't delude yourself that you have any questions or any knowledge. You don't know anything. You have no questions. And it's like, I mean, before I met you, I'd done thousands of approaches in a nightclub. When I knew that weekend when I came to work with you, I think you said like I was quite aggressive in my approach, like in terms of how I was going for it. But I was like, I was expecting it was going to be hard as fuck, because it's hard as fuck in a club, like, or it's similar, like it's, you know, it's not all fucking, it's not easy. So it's going to be harder in the daytime. That was my perception.
And you know what? Like, that's it's a good point. I spoke with Ephraim about this, because basically, this is me being transparent here. Basically, when it comes to selling things, right, there's like a value equation, and you basically want to try and minimize the perceived effort. So, for example, if you're selling personal training, right, in order to secure clients, you want to make it seem as effortless for them as possible, because we're naturally lazy, so we want the quick fix solutions. That's why most people go to liposuction rather than going for an actual personal trainer. But I said to Ephraim, like, that's actually the worst thing to do with cold approach, because part of the reason which inspired me to get started in the first place was because I knew how difficult it was going to be. So now, before guys have even worked with me, I make it so clear that, listen, this is so difficult. Like, this is so difficult to do, which is why very few guys actually get good with it, because the vast majority of guys who reach out, they just want magic bullets and quick fix solutions. They think, oh, I'll do a weekend with Kristian and then my entire life will be fixed. No, that's not how it works. It's all about what you do with that experience. But I just think it's important to make people aware, like you say, this is hard.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. This is even someone who's like, so I've done it. I've done a lot of stuff in my life outside of, you know, just doing daytime cold approach. I've done tons of things. I've done tons of nighttime cold approach. I've done a lot of stuff socially. And this is it, man. This is like the ultimate, basically.
Yeah.
I think about what you're actually doing. You're going to a woman apropos of nothing, and you're making a sort of, you're making a move on her in the middle of broad daylight, and boldly, basically. This is highly atypical behavior in our society, not necessarily worldwide, but it is in our society, and we are very conditioned by society. So yeah, you're gonna have to go through some mental challenges and emotional challenges. That's just what it is. Like, the good thing is, though, I said, like, the stuff I've done in the past, if you hadn't done that much, let's say, I don't know what Ephraim had done before, but he's so young, there's only a limited amount he even can have done, like, by, whatever it was, 22, 20, 23, whatever. Like, if you haven't done that much, this is the perfect place to start. Or if you're quite young, like, it's almost better, to be honest. Like, if I was literally like 22 and I said, like, right, whatever Christian's monthly rate is, that's all the money I've got, I'd spend it on this, because then you're 22. No one cares if you've got money. No one's expecting you to have money.
Yeah.
But then you've got skills for the rest of your life.
100%.
So, like, if you're a younger guy, and you're actually willing to apply yourself, I would 100% do it. It's going to pay off thousands of times over, man.
Well, it's like when I was 13 and I started with magic. Yeah, I dedicated a decade of my life to doing magic. So cold approach was somewhat familiar, but even for me, it was still difficult at the start. Yeah, I had COVID. I was living in a small city, but nothing can prepare you for it. But I do think that, let's say a guy's got a background in sales, which is what Ephraim had. So he'd worked in door-to-door sales. I think any discipline or hobby which acclimatizes you to getting rejected or blown out or having undesirable outcomes, it might be door knocking, like door-to-door sales, magic, performing on stage, it sets you up well for it. But I agree. I think if you are a young guy, you really don't have anything to lose, because like you say, no one's expecting anything from you anyway. But you're investing into, let's say, your 30s or your late 20s, because I think it's a rite of passage.
Your upside is borderline infinite with this, to be honest with you. I was thinking this. I was like, what I just did on Saturday night. I'm meeting a girl. 30 minutes, not even 30, literally, like, probably 20 minutes later, I'm dancing with her in the street. Right? She's like stroking me and stuff. Do you think Bill Gates has ever had that experience in his life?
Is that rhetorical? Are you asking me?
I don't know.
He's one of the, all right, look, I'll make it clear here. He was one of my very early clients. I took him to Bakewell Park, and I said, Bill, there's a girl over there, mate. She's feeling you. And he was like, that's my sister. It's like, doesn't matter. Get results. No, I don't think Bill Gates ever has. Do you know who Charlie Munger is?
I've heard the name. He's a comedian.
No, he died recently. If you Google Charlie Munger, I don't think he ever cold approached either. But that's funny. I've got images in my head now of Bill Gates cold approaching.
Yeah, it's a bad image.
Yeah, no, it's awful. I can't remember the point we were portraying. But no, I think, like you say, if you are a young guy, this is one of the best investments you can make, because it spills over into everything else as well. When you can go out there and do this really difficult thing, everything else becomes easier in comparison. There was one more thing that I wanted to ask you. Oh, that was it. Just before we say au revoir, what were the main takeaways for you from this experience? The reason why I asked this is because it's easy to have experiences like this, and then they fade out into nothingness. Life gets in the way, you forget about them, you lose consistency. But what are the main lessons that you're going to take forward for the next time?
Sure. Yeah, I think I got sidetracked as well in that last one. I was just about to say before that, Monday and Tuesday this week, I went out and did a short session after my evening little drink. And both days got just extremely hot girls numbers. So that's Monday and Tuesday, and much longer conversations. The streets weren't busy. There's two girls. I walked past them. My brain didn't work, and I was just I walked on for about 50 meters or something. I was like, just fucking go back. So I went back, opened them, spoke with them for ages. I spoke with this girl for ages, and like we're like going back and forth now. Tuesday, pretty much the same. The Tuesday girl was even hotter. So it's just like the thing with the Tuesday one as well. I was in my coffee shop, and there were two American guys, young guys, near to me, and they were talking to each other. I heard their accents, and I looked over at them just as I was leaving, and I just saw them sat side by side swiping Tinder on Tinder. There's something in my mind which was like basically just kind of disgusted, to be honest. I'm like, you boys, you fucking, the fuck you doing? So I don't know. In my own mind, I'm like, if I see someone when I get out there,
Yeah,
I'm going to approach. I think I didn't. There was one I didn't approach the first one, but the second one I did, and then that turned to be like, was this like just fucking amazing approach, to be honest with you. And it was more low key, low energy, chill, long conversation. You know, getting to know this person. So we're going back and forth, and these are like my maintenance, my weekday. These are not Renaissance days. These are my maintenance. I'm still doing it with a bit of a focus, so I still haven't adapted yet to being able to do it just like totally off the cuff when I'm going somewhere else. Like, I haven't got to that point, but just a little bit of focus, I've got a little maintenance. I can, I've been able to do it this week. So in terms of like takeaways from it is that session has put me on a little bit of a higher level. Now, after that session on Saturday, those Monday and Tuesday ones were relatively straightforward with, top tier, especially the second one, top tier. Like, she's like another fucking beauty queen type thing in her profile, whatever. So it's made it easier. It's literally like doing weights, right? You're doing maximum weights to failure, The next time you just go to lift up like a chair or something because you need to move a chair, it's easier. And so I think that's what I'm basically going to keep doing, is just have those days where I push it to the edge and then have little maintenance days in between. And I know what will happen is the maintenance stuff will get more advanced. To a normal guy who's never done this, what I would just do on a Monday or Tuesday night, just whatever, they couldn't even do that. That would be like, that wouldn't even be the end of their first 20 approaches or something. They wouldn't even be able to get to that point. And I'm doing that on my first one because I've done this brutality day on a Saturday. So I think that's something, to take away from me is like, keep going to failure on the Saturday and you will just naturally progress. Like it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And if I don't, just speak to the group. People give me suggestions. I had an issue with a couple of things. So much fucking wisdom in this group, man. We've got like some great guys in this group, and who are actually doing it as well. It's not just theory, like, oh, this guy's. It's everyone is doing it basically. And then in terms of other things as well, it's just kind of mini technical things. But I think the overall feeling is like to be more myself, to like take the limiter off of who you think you need to be, who you should be, whatever. Just take that bullshit off, throw it in the bin. If you suck, you suck. Don't fucking, who cares? You're still, even if you suck, you're still doing more than like pretty much everyone else. But just, bringing more and more of myself out, pulling out my inner like spirit and all this type of shit. That's really what it's about, to be honest. That's what's actually going to get the kind of glorious days and get the results. And I was like, there's something more than just goals that we're in this for. Like, and I think that's a big part of it. It's like you actually can become more yourself. Most of what we have to do in society, what you're doing is very interesting. A lot of people's jobs, they might not want to quit their job just to go and become themselves. Like, if you're a fucking investment banker making a lot of money, like, you're constrained in what you can do and say and all that type of shit. But when you're out there in the streets, you can actually be your fucking self. And the more of that you can bring out, for me, that's the goal. That's what I'm wanting to get to, is to bring more of myself out. So yeah, if there's a takeaway, it's like you need to let yourself out more, let yourself go more in that respect. Just, and yeah, I'll keep updating you with how I'm doing with that, because I don't necessarily have the answer to how to keep doing that and how to improve that, but it will happen. If I just keep going, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say from that, but I think the main takeaway from me, which I think is super practical, even for myself as well, it's always really good to have reminders with this stuff because I reach points where sometimes I forget that I've actually acquired this superpower. Right? It's become normal for me now, and oftentimes it's my clients who point it
Hey,
out. Like, I remember one time
it's
we
the
were
most
looking.
elite skill set. I
Yeah.
think it's one of, if not the most elite skill sets in the world. I really genuinely mean that.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely fucking elite. Like, there are more people who can perform surgery than there are who can do good cold approach.
Mm,
Easily. It's such an elite skill set. It takes so much fucking development. The fact that you've got so good at it at such a young age is fucking absurd, to be honest with you. But it is this magic background that you've got. You've effectively been cold approaching since childhood.
mm.
So, like, yeah.
And
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just
no,
wanted to
I
emphasize
think
that
it's
it is a
useful.
fucking
Just
elite skill set.
yeah, just for me, almost decoding my own DNA, and I think that's an interesting point though, because whatever I've decided to get good at, I've been obsessive about it. Like first it was magic. I always, whenever I was a kid, I was interested in like making videos, or then it was like drawing or whatever it was. I always wanted to be the best at it, but I always knew that I only had limited energy. So I decided on magic, and I was just ruthless with magic. I just did it like 10 years, yet fine, whatever. And I think
Mhm.
you need that if you're going to do something like this. Like I remember speaking to Alex about this, another guy in our group, and he was like, the thing that really makes people successful with this is the guys who just really want it. You know, it's like you really do need to have that burning desire if you're going to commit yourself to this. And I think the point that you made about having the sacrificial sets at the start, it's so necessary because like it's easy to overlook that and be like, oh, if I go out and the first one's bad, it's game over. No, that's just the game is just getting started. The first three don't count. Maybe it takes you 7 or 8 to start to find your flow. But yeah, I think that's really useful point to guys and also for myself. Like the way you start, it's not the way that you finish, but you do
Yeah.
need to sacrifice yourself in those early conversations. Because what's
Yeah.
interesting as well is like by the end of the day, like you barely even remember the first ones. They're just like a
Yeah.
distant memory, but you're
Yeah.
grateful because they led to the eventual happy endings.
Yeah. You build your day, man. You build your day, and you earn the right to go out in that fucking Titan mode in the last few approaches.
Mm,
Like, you earn that right. Yeah, you build your day like you're literally laying foundations, and that might be quite painful and fucking grueling. And I think the element maybe that struck people in the, because I did an account in our group, and I think the element that might have struck you anyway. When I listened to it afterwards, I was like, there's actually like an emotional honesty to how fucking painful those first sets are. I
mm,
think that's just too overlooked. And as you say, because you're selling courses and stuff, you're selling your training, it's understandable. Like, anyone who just has professional work, you don't necessarily want to emphasize, like, by the way, you might have to do 5 like approaches that make you literally wish you'd never fucking started this.
yeah,
Um, and wish you just could go home and fucking cry, but you're gonna have to do them. And like, you don't want to say that to someone who is, coming to you for services. That's just the reality that could well happen. You can get numbers on your first approach. I mean, I remember in Manchester on day 2, I got a number on my very first approach. No, sorry, the second day. So I'd done loads the day before. Then the second day, I got a number the very first approach, which just was like, I was actually flying out the gate on that first day. On the second day. But equally, you can just you can get brutalized for like 9 approaches, and that's, you've got to just take it and just keep going. In a way that just made it feel so much more glorious as well.
hundred
Like
percent.
how much it sucked earlier in the day made it so much more glorious that it finished like, bro, this chick, man, she was like a couple of inches taller than me. She was just a complete specimen. Like, she was just totally ridiculous. Like, and I'm like, I just got her so easily, at the end of the day. And the girls this week were more attractive as well. So it's just going from, strength to strength, really. But you got to accept the difficulty and the fucking pain and the like embarrassment, humiliation, and like just learn to fucking laugh at it a little bit, even if you do feel like crying in the moment. You just afterwards you just have a fucking laugh about it. Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna put people off coming to join you, but that's the reality. Like,
No, I
do you
think,
want to get
look,
good?
with all of this stuff, it's so necessary, right? It's so necessary to make it clear to guys, because then I know the people who are applying to sign up, they're the guys, because they're the guys who are actually going to be consistent, actually
No.
be a valuable asset to our group as well. Like, that's really important for me. I don't want people in our group who are not active, who are not doing anything, who are just there for a free ride. I don't have time for those people. So
No.
what I've learned as well is just the necessity of polarizing people, right? I hope that there are people who unsubscribe to me after this live stream
Yeah.
and don't decide to work with me, because they were never my clients anyway. In the same way that we polarize women, we have to polarize the world, because that's the only way we're going to find our people. Yeah, you can never be everything to everybody, right? You polarize the masses, you find your people, and you delight the people who delight in you. So I just think it's necessary. Like, it's
Yeah.
not going to be easy, but is it worth it? Yeah, it's the fucking best ride of your life, and we'll be there every step of the way as well. You know, the guys who
Yeah.
are listening to this stream and they do want to work with me, you get access to all of us, not just me. You get to connect with Joseph and the rest of the guys in the group. So, yeah, the final thing that I was going to say was all of these approaches, like all the batting practice, you eventually do arrive at a point where you're more excited to win than you're scared to lose, and that's when you've cracked it. That's when you've cracked it. Then it doesn't matter when the good approach come. Even if the good approach is like it takes 12 approaches to get there, you're just returning to the blackjack table with the mindset of, I can't wait to win today. I know I'm going to take a few losses, but I can't wait to win. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what the approach of acclimatization is about. It's getting more excited to win than you're scared to lose. Most guys don't do enough approaches, so they never get there, and then they cry. So, it's one of those. Was there any other? Go on.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm middle of the process right now. So, since working with you, I've been wanting to do like a more of an immersion, like a 90-day where I'll go, okay, I'm going to go out every Saturday. If I can do a bit during the week, I can. And it wasn't possible in Brazil; it just wasn't feasible. So I just did what I could there. Still did some approaches, did some nightlife, but it just wasn't feasible. So now for me, it's like it's time to step up now. So I'm kind of like 3 weeks into a 90-day thing, 3.5 weeks in. And that's the way I'm seeing it. The first few weeks, just, actually went fairly well, to be honest with you. Saturday was a big hardcore day. And I'm going to be doing, 6, 7, 8 more of those. And so what I want to get to, and I believe I can get to, is just a totally categorically higher level than I'm at. Where it's like, sure, there may be battles and stuff like that, but it's like, the worst Premier League player compared to a fucking Sunday League player is absolutely unbelievably sick on his worst possible day. And that's what I want to get to, where like maybe I have a bad day, maybe I have a good day, but basically I'm fucking sick compared to like what I was before. And that's achievable. Like it's just there's no reason I can't get there. Everything like is in place for it. So I've just got to keep going with it. And I'm sure there's gonna be more fucking challenges. It's never gonna be fucking easy. I don't know, like, but the thing is, like, I've got to a point, it's like, what do I want with this? Why am I doing it? Do I want to actually get fucking good? Or do I want to just sort of be in a group and sort of like half, pretend that I'm kind of halfway doing it and I'm doing it a bit? Like, or do I actually want to get good? And so, like, yeah, I've just kind of decided I've got to fucking go. Like, I've got to do more. I've got to do my absolute most to get fucking good at this. And so that's the point I'm at now. That's 5 months after working with you. So yeah, like probably another 6 months from now, at the end of this 90 days, I think I'll be in a more advanced situation. I already am, to be honest, but I think I'm going to be in a more advanced situation. So that'll be interesting. And then we'll see what happens. Like sort of 6 months away, a year from where I worked with you, 7 months away still. It'll be interesting to see where I am by that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think to end the discussion, that's the most important thing for me. Like, I don't want the people who work with me to just be successful for a weekend. I want you to be successful for life. Like, it's a long-term strategy that we're in this for. And like I say to everybody who does any sort of experience with me, as far as I'm concerned, the time that we spend together, that's just the start of everything. Like, it was 5 months since we worked together, and now I consider you as one of my best friends, right? And like that's what this should be about, right? If someone invests their money for my time, I don't want to just be this figure who just disappears. I want us to be recurring crossover characters in each other's lives, and then I want to be able to get you on a live stream like this so you can share your stories, celebrate your victories, talk about your losses. Like that's what this should be about. I've said it before. I never set out to build a business. I wanted to create a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle that I want people such as yourself to be part of. So yeah, no, thank you for giving your time, because it's really valuable. I think this conversation has been one of my favorite conversations that we've had. I think it's been super useful. So hopefully the guys have got a lot out of it. What are you doing now?
I'm going to go approach, mate.
That is the right answer.
Yeah, just finished work, finished everything, just spoken to you. Still probably an hour left of sunlight where I am. So yeah, fuck it, I'm going to go approach. Probably do, probably a couple of approaches.
Use all of this. Use all of this social momentum. All of this will go into your conversation. Imagine that I'm right there, like I was on Market Street in Manchester, pretending to be invisible.
That's going to be my open. Do you know Kristian Casanova?
That's what that girl was looking at on the phone. She was watching my infield, man.
Exactly.
Anyway, thank you again. We'll have more of these in the future. But go out there, don't do anything that I wouldn't do, and continue to crush it in South America. All right.
Nice one. Take it easy, brother.
Bye-bye.